More news in the field of medical technology. Today, the subject, organ transplants.
Yeah, this is a very exciting medical segment. I want you to meet the people involved in this. First of all, cardiologist Dr. Alan Tomley. Seated next to him, a smiling, healthy man who has been the recipient of a heart. And we're going to find out more about that from Triston Stegall. And of course, our own Dr. Max Greenman, who is going to tell us more about this subject. You have a special party to show us. Let's begin.
Oh, these are fantastic people here. Alan, you took Triston Stegall through his heart transplant. How many people in the viewing area need heart transplants?
Well, Max, we currently have 17 people on our transplant list waiting for heart transplantation. It's just becoming more and more difficult to find donor hearts, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But
you say it's hard to get a donor. How can someone become a donor, or how can they, let people know they wish to do this?
Right. Well, that's really the most important thing. It always involves tragedy, unfortunately. It's usually someone that's young, but it's important for the families of all families to be able to have the knowledge of whether or not somebody wants to be an organ donor or not. Something like this has to be discussed among themselves, so that if that time, day ever arises, then you need to know that that's in fact what they want to do.
Isn't there a checkoff on the license that you could use?
There is. You can sign your donor card, sign your driver's license, and it's important certainly to do that. But again, talking and discussing is critical as well.
Because they can help a lot of people. Triston had a heart, but you can give corneas that I use, skin, kidneys,
right,
liver. Triston, what was life like before you had the transplant?
Well, for a good many months, like, 12 or 14 months before, breath was at a price.
Well, I've known you many years, probably 15 years, 20 years.
At least, yeah, 17 really, but...
You're very active.
Yeah, and I always led an active life, but for at least 12 or 14 months before this transplant, you just couldn't get your breath. I mean, it was just, you couldn't sleep. You sat up in bed to sleep, and a couple hours breath or sleep at night was wonderful. And after the transplant, I remember coming back to my senses after getting out from the anesthesia, and when I got the first breath, I knew it was, just like living again. And it's been that way ever since.
I mean, you look wonderful. I remember you couldn't get to work. I mean, you were just lying around the house.
I work every day, and I feel wonderful.
How exciting. What are some of the other things that you can do? Do you go out for walks?
I can drive an 18-wheeler.
Oh, you don't need to walk. That's wonderful.
I do walk about 2.5 or 3 miles a day.
What do you think would have happened if you hadn't had the advantages of this work?
Well, to put it real mildly, I'm sure I'd been pushing up daisies today.
Okay.
You wouldn't be on this show, would
Which is interesting. We have the picture up
here
on the screen, and Triston is part of this. It was a party at Christmas time. Tell us about it, Triston.
Well, we had a Christmas party for the transplants, of which at that time I believe there were a total of about 54 or 5. And, we made a real effort to get them all out. And we had a total at the party of 81 people. And, of course, that was the spouses and the whole patient list. And we were real happy to have that many out.
That is nice.
Great.
Alan, what is the future going to be? Are we going to see mechanical hearts? There was a Jarvik 7 heart out.
Right. Max, the Jarvik 7 is out. It's actually back in recall now, but there are others that are out. We're using artificial hearts as bridges to transplant. In other words, patients who are real sick and who cannot be managed medically, some patients we used artificial hearts for that. But as far as long-standing artificial hearts, patients going home with artificial hearts, that's not being done today. 5 years, 10 years, who knows? We're certainly looking forward to that.
And there's a lot of controversy we hear about using fetal tissue, like baby Faye.
Right, baby Faye, different kinds of species, things like that are being tested now.
Chimpanzee.
Right, exactly. It sounds crazy, sounds wild, but in truth, there is some real promise in this kind of research. A lot of that is being done out on the West Coast, and again, it's downstream. We don't know how long it's going to be. Hopefully within the next 5 or 10 years.
Well, cyclosporin has been very helpful to prevent the immune reaction. Do we have any new medicines coming out?
There are some new medicines that are certainly out and coming down the pike. Nothing that's been released at this time.
I thank you both for being with us. We've learned a lot.
Thank you.
Great subject.
Really is.
oh, boy.
I'm fascinated and delighted. Thank you both.
Thank goodness for doctors. And also authors of how about a new weight loss cookbook. And hey, they had fun at the party, didn't they? We'll be back.